We are here for another Outdoor News Live. Let me get my air conditioning cut off so we don't have to hear that all evening. And I've got several topics I'm going to talk about tonight, including the 4D fishing frog tournament, as well as women coming to Caddo, the El Tango versus the Flutter and versus the Wobble Head. And I'm going to mention, of course, the Junior League going down to Toledo Bend. So the way that this works, if you're new here, and I see that we've already got a few people starting to log in and get their notifications. So let me get my chat session going here. But the way that this works is we're going to talk about topics, and I strongly encourage you to participate. Participate via the comments section, and that helps the show move along. And any questions that you got, just let me know. Next week I've got a couple of guests or at least one guest lined up, possibly more. And then later this week, at some point, probably Thursday evening, I'm going to do a live video for the North Louisiana Junior Fishing League. It's their pre-tournament show. So I'll be doing that live via their Facebook page. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and I am going to start my countdown. That gives more people time to see the notifications. The average on Facebook is like 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my 5-minute countdown. We'll be right back and get started. So y'all go grab something to drink, grab you a thing of popcorn or whatever, tag some friends, let them know that we're on live. And looks like I also probably need to update my Caddo Lake condition. All right, made it through the countdown with that easy-going music again. You have to be careful these days on Facebook and YouTube and use music or background music that is copyright proof or whatever. It's a real pain in the rear end, but it is what it is. All right. So let's see. Has anybody been on Caddo yesterday or today? I'm just guessing at the water conditions. I'm sure it's probably cooled off a little bit. If you've been, comment. Let me know what the water temp was. And I think the lake level is about 169.60. Let's see if we can figure that out. And we'll get that kind of halfway accurate. Again, I'm not going to do, everything on Caddo Lake, but at least the first several shows because I've got a lot of information built up there. Let's see, mean water level today is showing to be 169.94, so looks like it may have gone up just a touch. And I'm going to guess it's probably 72 to 74 degrees after the sun gets out in most places. All right, so we've got several things to talk about tonight. Like I was saying at the very beginning, for those of you just now tuning in, there was a 4D Fishing, which is a tackle distributor, tackle outlet over in East Texas, and they put on a frog fishing tournament it's not frog fishing, bass fishing tournament using frogs only. Let me rephrase that. This past Saturday, the Saturday before Easter, which would have been, the 17th to 16th of April. And actually, it was pretty fun. I didn't weigh in any fish. We'll talk about that here in a second. But it did take 3 fish that were over 18 pounds to win. It was a 3-fish limit. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. It made it, I don't know, in some ways less challenging because I didn't have to worry about trying to figure out, if pitching a jig or pitching a worm or pitching a creature bait or anything like that was going to yield more bites. It was strictly throw the frog and try to get it in front of the areas that have a good fish in them and try to get bit. I mean, it was pretty much that simple. And to me, it was pretty much covering water. I kind of made a milk run, so to speak. And anyway, like I said, it was I actually had a pretty good time. It was fairly well put together, especially I think this is their first year doing it. So, we'll talk about it some more. Hello, Mr. Dan Fulgham. Let's put your comment up here. So let me shift this up. Let me add this to the broadcast. We got about 10 people watching. So Dan says, Saw high school guys won cash. Did that disqualify them from other sports? And we talked about that on the first show as far as the LHSAA. And just a quick summary and refresher. The way that works is the LHSAA is it's the Louisiana High School Athletic Association. Anyway, they were founded back in like the early 1900s, I guess. And they're a private organization. They are a 501c3, so they're a nonprofit. They're not a government body. They're not a government entity, and a lot of people mistake that. It's just they're literally the monopoly on high school sports in Louisiana, and the sister organizations in other states, most states have similar deals, are pretty much the same way. They have no competition, so they can write their own rules. The schools sign up and pay whatever the fees are. I think it's based on number of students. And that's the deal. Well, they started edging into fishing. So if you go back and watch show number 1 from a week ago, I went through there, even played a phone call that I had with Adam McDowell, who is kind of head of the fishing and some other sports with them. And the deal is, if you are a high school student, and look, you don't even have to be high school student, junior high or junior, like in the junior league. And if you go out and win money, doesn't matter whether it's bass fishing, you could go out and win some money in a ping pong tournament or a cornhole tournament, doesn't matter. But if you go out and win money in a sport or something that is at least loosely considered a sport, that can potentially disqualify you from playing LHSAA sanctioned sports. It could even get your team disqualified and penalties assessed and all sorts of things. So, Dan, the way that works is, and again, Dan's question was, some high school kids won cash. That won't necessarily disqualify them. The way that works is another school would have to call and report that to the LHSAA, and then they will take action. They've done it before, not in fishing, but in other sports. And that phone call that I played on show number 1, Adam says, pretty much you can't do it. And again, it's not just fishing, but, a lot of the kids around here, even if it's not a high school age tournament, even if they're going to fish, I don't know, any of Mike Eccles' tournaments or any other tournament organization, doesn't matter, like with their dad or maybe with an uncle or just two high schoolers get together to go fish a jackpot tournament. Well, by LHSAA rules, that violates amateur status, and they're not supposed to do that. So it doesn't automatically disqualify them, but, as competitive as high school sports are, football, baseball, basketball, tennis even, golf, and all that, the potential is there, especially when the kids win the money. And look, I'm all for the kids winning money. I can't stand the LHSAA. I think somebody needs to come in and offer them some competition and take them out of the loop. So I'm all for the kids being able to fish tournaments or, again, play a cornhole tournament. I don't know, whatever, and win money. But according to the LHSAA, that is a potential no-no. So, long-winded answer to that, Dan, but I hope that answers the question, because in the 4D fishing, I believe, if I'm reading your question correctly, they did have a high school division, and the high schoolers won some money. So let's flip over to that screen. Give me just a second. We'll take a look at it. Let's see. Okay, so here is the 4D fishing. Let me zoom this in just a touch, make it a little easier to read. This is the 4D fishing post from yesterday. Again, the tournament was Saturday. Says the inaugural 4D fishing American Bait Works Frog Only was a huge success, blah, blah, blah. All right. Their next tournament, Frog Only, will be June the 18th on Wright Patman and September the 17th on Lake of the Pines. And look, I have no association with them. I paid my money, donated my $120. Again, had a good time, actually. But I think it's a cool idea, so we'll give them a little credit here. Here's a high school division right here, showing that Sam Watson and Caden Ritter, and I believe they had to have a boat captain and a student. $240 with 11 pounds. Big Bass was $60, 4.7 pounds. And second place was Jason White with 4.8. While we're going, let's go on down to the gator division. So again, if y'all know anybody, any of the high schoolers that were fishing that you know, or that fish any of the other tournaments, you might want to have them tune in, or again, go back and watch last week's show number 1. It was last Monday, where I talk about that. And again, I'm just bringing it to light here. But all right, so they had the gator division. That was the adults. First place was Tom, hope I'm saying it right, Zemek and Greg Ellis with 18.4 pounds. And again, it's a 3-fish limit. They had, I think, a 7.5, a 6.5, and then maybe a 4 if that math works out right, close to that. Anyway, won $1,232 plus $560 for big bass. Second place was Cody Burgess and Mr. Braden Nichols, who always seems to be somewhere in the money or doing well in tournaments around here and elsewhere. He fishes on the LSUS fishing team. Anyway, they had 11.9 with 470, so on and so forth. 12th place was 3 pounds. Also, there were a couple of the ladies that were from the Lady Bass Anglers Association. We're going to talk about that later in the show. At 11th place at 3.1 pounds was Noella McLaren and Pam Ridgedale. And let's see, 5th place, Penny McCurdy and Kenneth Hedgepeth. 9.5 pounds. Penny fishes the Lady Bass Anglers and fishes, pretty sure, a couple other trails too. She has got I think it's black or dark charcoal and orange Pro Gator. I think she used to run a Phoenix and let's just say had a little trouble on Caddo, and so she's now running a Pro Gator. It's actually a really pretty boat. But anyway, so I'm going to scroll down and I'll show you some of the pictures, and then we're going to analyze my fishing issues from Saturday. And so let me just roll through some of these pictures. Some of these folks I know, some of them I don't. But as you can see, some decent fish caught. Let's see, there's Mr. Braden Nichols. And like I said, it was actually actually I had a pretty fun time fishing that. But there was a problem. I didn't weigh any fish. And, you know, I'm supposed to be, you know, this big frog fisherman. And look, the truth is I throw a frog 50% of the time at least. Doesn't really matter what the weather or temperature is. But I did struggle Saturday. And so let's take a look at that and we'll kind of analyze what happened. So let me get to this video here. All right, so here we go. So let me get this queued up here. And what this is showing, I believe, 3 fish that I missed. That were, I saw the fish, all 3 of them. As a matter of fact, one of them came airborne. I didn't get the video of him going airborne, but saw all 3 fish. All 3 were overs. I wouldn't have been anywhere close to 18 pounds, but I should have weighed in a limit of fish. And of course, it's my fault, and I didn't realize it till about 11 o'clock. But here we go.
Oh, get the net. Oh, well, that was the first place fish.
And it's hard to tell in the video, but I saw that fish too. Again, most likely an 18 to 19 inch fish. This fish actually went airborne.
Oh, damn it.
And by then I was getting a little frustrated. That fish was absolutely an over. So I was like, I better check out these hooks. Now, let me explain, because you can see me grabbing the pliers there. So I'm going to show you here in just a second the difference in the frogs that I normally fish and the Snag Proof Bobby's Perfect frog that I was throwing there. So I fish a Spro frog all the time. I mean, that's pretty much 100% of the frogs I throw, unless I'm throwing like a ribbit or a top toad or something like that. But as far as a hollow body frog, I throw nothing but Spro frogs. And honestly, I pull them out of the package and I throw them. And I catch a lot of fish on a frog. And one of the secrets that I learned a couple of years ago was don't count it down. They hit it maybe half a second, but most of the time I'm swinging almost immediately. And yeah, Trent, you're right. Bending the hooks out is the challenge, and that should have been the first thing I did. Again, I'm not blaming Snag Proof, and certainly not the 4D fishing guys. It was absolutely my fault. I should have caught onto this earlier. But I had a scum frog tied on, and I had the scum frog, the one with the paddle feet or whatever, tied on. And I took a look at those hooks, and they were both positioned nicely. And so I decided to throw that Bobby's Perfect frog, and honestly, I didn't even check it until the third over. And, of course, by then it was, I don't know, 10:30 or 11 o'clock. So let me go ahead and hit play, and you'll see me bending these out. But, of course, at this point, it was too late for those fish, naturally. I tried to get that big one to come back up, but wasn't having any of it because I had a little bit of steel in it there for a few seconds. So you can see me, I got the pliers, I'm bending them out and slightly up just a touch. And then change locations. This wasn't even 30, 45 minutes later. Unfortunately, not quite.
Gill plate right there. Tail's all jacked up. 17.
It looked like a lamprey mark, and it's interesting because you'll see here in a second there's another fish with a lamprey mark. And of course my wife was being a diligent net girl.
Oh, you're getting net practice. Another slot fish. Another 17 incher.
I mean, of course, after tweaking the hooks, you know, you can see here I'm pretty much sticking everything. And again, I fish Spro frogs straight out of the box. I don't even touch the hooks.
Of course, he ain't much bigger than the frog, but look at that on his head.
I thought that was kind of interesting. It's definitely a lamprey mark
attached to him. Huh. Interesting.
Unfortunately, no more overs for me. At least not Saturday.
14.
Couldn't even get an under.
Gotta go back.
Okay, so if you want to critique me, go right ahead in the comments. Let me put Trent's comment up here. So Trent says, I bent my hooks out. That's the first thing I did. Absolutely right. First thing I should have checked again. I hadn't fished a Snag Proof frog literally since the 80s and early 90s, by the way. I don't know if any of y'all caught on to what the Bobby, whatever his last name was at the deal. But he was talking about that, you know, those frogs first came around, that style first came around in the early 90s. It's not true. We were taking Snag Proof frogs out of the package, the hollow bodies that used to have the little legs on them. Friend of mine back in my high school days, anyway, he was a tackle rep and a friend of our family. And he showed me how to cut the legs off, take a spinnerbait skirt, run it through there, put a little BB sinker, 2 BB sinkers, one in each side, and then super glue them to weight it down. And of course the hooks were terrible back then. And so we had to make sure and keep the hooks sharp. And that's actually, you know, the first type of frog that I fished. I bought those Snag Proofs with the legs, and Butch was like, oh, no, let me show you a much better way to do this. And that was, you know, like I said, back in the 80s. But yes, I should have checked the hooks. Should have tweaked them out and up much sooner. And I won't make that mistake again. I like those Snag Proof frogs, though. They walk really well. I mean, you pretty much breathe on them and they go ahead and walk, including the little scum frog. The water evacuates from that Bobby's Perfect frog nicely. I mean, it's rare unless they take it down and hold it that you have to squeeze water out of it. And, you know, one thing about the Spros is you have to squeeze the water out generally every time you catch a fish, of course, or miss one. But you have to squeeze the water out of them more frequently than the Snag Proof. So overall, I like the frogs. I'm not a fan of the hooks. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about there earlier Saturday when I realized what was going on, grabbing one of my Spros and pulling the hooks out and changing out. But I thought, that'd probably be violating the rules, so I didn't do that. Yeah, Trent says, I like that you could run it like a buzzbait. Yeah, like I said, overall, I like the frog. I like the action. Not a fan of the hooks. And so while we're talking about it, bear with me just a second. I've got some over here. And let me see if I can make this show up here. Hold on. Okay, so this is live on my desk. So I'm going to be talking back and forth here because of the way my microphone is set up. So bear with me here. Okay. You can see on top, this is the standard Spro 65. This one I've retired. It's caught about 50-something fish. And usually somewhere in the 40s to 50 fish range, I go ahead and retire them because it just gets to where they leak a little too much water and the plastic gets worn. The hooks are still in good shape there. But I want to show you something interesting. So I'm going to take this hook. So give me just a second. And let me see if I can make this work. I'm going to take this hook right here, and notice I'm holding it as level as I can with that grid line, and notice the point on the right side and where it is in relation. I'm trying to hold this as square as I can. You can see the shadow and all that behind it, but notice where that point is there. This is Bobby's Perfect Frog. This is straight out of the box. I hadn't tweaked the hooks or anything like that. But take a look at that point. So notice in those grid lines right there, and again, I'm trying to hold it as square as possible to be fair, but notice how far down those turn, how much of an angle that is. And so that's a big difference. So again, I really like these frogs. They're really soft, really pliable, but make sure that you turn those hooks up and turn them slightly out. Even if you just move them 1/8 of an inch or 1/16, that's actually quite a bit, makes a big difference. I think they're doing that because if you look at the profile of it, the hook is turned with the body of the frog, and it's probably to help it keep it more weedless. But let me show you something else that's kind of interesting here too. So let me flip back over to my browser. And let's go over here. So this is the website for American Baitworks, not 4D Fishing. But I would suggest that you go to their website too, 4dfishing.org. But if you look at the picture right here for the Bobby's Perfect Frog, and I just randomly picked a color. But notice it looks like the hook is turned up a little better here, but that's only because of the way it's sitting. You know, the eye right here, it's got an eye on the inside that just goes around the hook. And so the way it's sitting on the table, this is not how the hook is positioned when you're working that frog. As a matter of fact, let me see here. In case y'all hadn't seen it, I'm sure most of y'all that fish a lot and throw frogs probably have, but this is one of the Bobby's Perfect Frog hooks that I took apart. Now this is out of the black one that I was throwing, and it has been tweaked just a little bit. So if you notice when I line it up, it's not quite as drastic as that other one. But you can see down here, this is how they're designed. So there's the eye, and it's basically a double eye that loops around the frog hook right there. And, you just push it in through the body, and you can actually, you could carry extra frog hooks and change these out in case you damage the hooks or something like that. I generally don't have to worry about that because, frog hooks are pretty stout. So anyway, if you've got some tips or some feedback, if you fished that tournament the other day from, let's see, it looks like we got, let's go into low power mode. Anyway, if you fished that deal from 4D Fishing the other day and you enjoyed it or you didn't, comment and let me know. Again, I enjoyed it. They had everything set up nice. They ran the tournament fairly well and all that. He had a nice trailer set up with tackle in it, was selling frogs there at a real reasonable price and all that. So overall, I liked it. I just got to remember to tweak the frog next time. All right. So enough about the, well, you know what? Let me show you something else here. So let me get a video queued up here. So I want to show you. All right, let me flip back over. We're not going to watch this one again. This is my frog fishing video.
Hello, folks, and welcome.
I just actually released this last year, but I just re-released it and put it up on my YouTube channel. You can just search the outdoor news on YouTube, all one word. But I re-released it because I had to put some different music behind it, because the music track that I had is fine on Facebook for copyright, but it's not good on YouTube for copyright. Imagine that. So I had to put some YouTube friendly music behind it. But that fish I caught on a frog. So let me fast forward up here. And I'm going to roll through this. Here we go. All right, so this is where I get into the frog portion of it. And again, this is Spro frog straight out of the box. By the way, that water is about 12 to 14 inches deep right there. And the water was in the 60s, like 65 degrees.
First frog fish, second over day. Gotcha. Oh, yes, sir.
Again, that's a Spro frog
fish.
Straight out of the package.
Bam.
That is.
Outstanding. Whew. Let me show you here what the deal is. Think they don't want to eat a frog? Look at that right there.
And the other thing that and again, it's personal preference. I know there are guys that like them. I'm not a huge fan of the chisel style hooks. I like the cylindrical style, needlepoint style hooks.
Caddo Lake. I'm just back here in these trees, and just out of the blue, wham! You never know when you get.
So again, this was last year, not this past Saturday, or obviously I would have weighed in. All right, so let me roll past that one.
I'm still throwing reddier color, and I hope we got that on video, because that fish just absolutely nailed it.
And of course, that red ear, y'all probably seen me post. If you follow any of my posts, I post about the red ear quite a bit. It's my favorite color. Again, the fish are longer than the water is deep.
Yes. Woo. Not even.
All right, so I'm going to roll past that one right there. And let's go on up. I think I got one more frogfish on here. Yeah, here we go.
Folks, I'd like to remind you, even though I'm catching most of these on a frog, I found a couple of those fish earlier on a Funkbuster Wesley Warbird. So you need.
Okay, so you can go check that video out if you hadn't already seen it. I've got it on my Facebook page, as well as just posted on my YouTube channel. Easiest way to find the YouTube channel is go to YouTube and just search the outdoor news, all one word. If you search it separate words, I'll be probably 4 or 5 down. Or you can go to the outdoor.news/YouTube, and that'll redirect you to it. Now, Todd Johnson had a good question. Was a trailer hook not allowed? Did you have to use it just straight out of the package? So I reread the rules, and I probably need to read them again, but there wasn't anything in the rules that prevented using a trailer hook that I remember. So I probably need to double check that. So the answer is I probably could have used a trailer hook. The problem with a trailer hook on a frog is, one, most of the trailer hooks are not nearly as stout as the frog hooks. Number two, where I'm generally throwing a frog, those trailer hooks have a tendency to get hung up, and that can be a challenge and a problem itself. So if I were throwing that frog in open water, I probably would use a trailer hook some. But where I generally throw it, I don't even put a trailer hook on my spinner baits or anything usually, just because of where I throw them. But I don't think it was disallowed in the tournament. Therefore, there wasn't anything that said you couldn't. So, but I will double check the rules on that. Hello there, future Mayor Jeremy Gallman and current president of the High School Fishing League. Glad that you joined in to listen to me ramble on here for a few minutes. All right, so let me catch myself up in my notes here. Yeah, so I would encourage you, again, I had fun fishing the tournament, even though I donated my $120 to everybody that won money. But I would encourage you to go like and follow the 4D fishing deal. Like I said, real nice people, super nice, ran a clean, nice tournament and all that. Hopefully maybe next time they'll be able to shoot some video of the weigh-in. That would actually be cool. And anyway, they're going to try to do them every year, so I doubt I'll fish the other frog tournaments. I might. But if I have one next year on Caddo, I'm pretty sure I'll be back there fishing it. All right. Any questions about that or questions about frog fishing in general? Now would be a good time to ask. Okay. So let's move on here. Let me put a check mark on this so I can kind of keep up here. So if you're not aware, there are a whole bunch of women, ladies, coming to fish Caddo again. And it's the Lady Bass Anglers Association. They're going to have their tournament on Caddo May the 5th and 6th, so that's not this week, not this weekend, but next weekend at Earl G. Probably, I'm guessing they'll have 20 to 30 boats. They have the pro and the co-angler. Co-anglers, of course, get paired up with the pros. They'll be fishing 2 days for this. And let's see here. Let me pull this up. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so their first tournament of the year was March the 10th and 11th at Ray Hubbard. Then again, May the 5th and 6th at Caddo Lake. If we click over here and take a look at their results so far, looks like there's the pro division there. And, like I said, looks like about 15 or so ladies fish that one. I'm sure they'll have about 15 20, I don't know, maybe 30 ladies that'll be fishing the one over here. And here's their page on the Caddo Lake information. They go over the history of it. Entry fees for the pro anglers, again, this is ladies only, is $400, and co-anglers is $200. They have a cutoff the week prior, so I believe this coming up Sunday will be their last day of practice outside the cutoff, and then they'll go in and have official practice, I think maybe the day before, maybe 2 days before. So anyway, they're going to be putting in at Earl G and having their weigh-ins there, and I'll have some more information posted. I went to their tournament and their weigh-in in 2019. They had their championship here. Alyssa Johnson won that one. And as a matter of fact, show number 1 that I did last week, I showed some footage of her and the use of paper fish by the ladies. And again, that's just a cross-reference chart for slot fish. If you catch, say, a 15-inch fish in their tournament, I believe they're doing that again, then you can look up on the chart and it gets assigned that weight if you don't have, say 4 overs and an under, because again, they have a pro and a co-angler. And a lot of people say, well, yeah, how do they keep from cheating? Well, the check and balance is the co-angler in the boat, basically has to sign off on those weights too. And it made a difference in Alyssa winning the championship, their classic, in 2019. So paper fish are interesting, And again, I talked about that last show along with the slot. Let's see here. Mr. Gallman says, I hope we can share info on the tournament we are working on soon. Yeah, I'm trying to get the flyer graphic finished up, so I'll probably have that finished up tomorrow, maybe Wednesday at the latest, and shoot you a couple of copies of that and let you see which one you want to use. Or we can just do several iterations of it and send it out. So what it's going to be, we'll go ahead and kind of pre-announce it unless you have any objection to that, Mr. Gallman. As a matter of fact, Jeremy, would you like to come on the show for a few minutes, and we'll go ahead and talk about that. If you want to, I can text you a link, and you can come on in. So, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and send you a text message with that link. Let's see here. Give me just a second, folks. All right, Jeremy. You should have got a text message. You can click that link if you decide to. It'll ask you for permission for your mic and your camera. Robert Thomas says no, not Coleman. Anyway, so of course you need to give it permission, and we'll see if we can get you in. If not, I've got a phone number you can call in, and we'll talk about that. So anyway, back to the ladies on Caddo. If Jeremy comes in, we'll switch back over to the high schoolers and what's going on there and what he's got to announce. All right. Okay, so anyway, I would encourage you to go out and watch these ladies fish. They are very professional, pretty much as professional as any men's deal. All right, let's see. Let me see if I can get Mr. Gallman in. Y'all bear with me just a second here. All right, Mr. Gallman, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Rex.
I think everybody can hear you too. So y'all still got some sunshine where you're at. Sun's about to set over here.
It's about to be out of here for me too.
All right, so yeah, you got a tournament that you're putting together coming up. You want to take a few minutes and we'll go ahead and kind of announce it before we have all the graphics and everything completely ready?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Hey guys, we're kind of excited about this. I've been talking to Rex and a bunch of people. We're going to have the North Louisiana High School Open Classic coming to the Red River. We're going to accept the first 200 boats that with the entry fee and of $100 and $25 big bass. And it's going to be a 3-day event. So we're excited about this. We're partnering up with a bunch of people. So we're getting excited about it.
Yeah. How many boats are you trying to have, Jeremy? Any idea?
We're trying to have 200.
Okay. And is it going to be a 2-day tournament, 1 day? What's the format for
it? No, the format right now is everybody fishes the first 2 days, and then we'll have a cut. And we're going to take 30 boats after that and zero them out and let them slug it out.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a whole lot of fun. And, trying to bring some tournaments back to the Red River. I think a lot of people have been gun shy about the Red after the floods, but I've been talking to a bunch of guys, and they say, look, it's very fishable. There's some night tournaments going on, I think weekly on the Red now. Have you fished any of them?
Yeah, I fished a couple of them with my son. I fished one with my high schooler, one with my middle schooler, and it's been fun. It's a 3-hour tournament on the Red River, and I've been beat up on by some high schoolers. So, it's fishable. We're running all over the Red River right now. They're fixing up stuff, and just to throw something out there, we're going to have bands and food trucks and everything so that the families can come out and enjoy. So, it's going to be a big deal.
Well, sounds like fun. All right. Well, as soon as we get all the stuff designed up and finished up and I get my end of it done, we'll make sure and release some of that. And, yeah, we'll definitely get you back on, and maybe some of the high schoolers or some of the folks involved or whatever, and come back on and we'll talk about it some more before tournament time. And I think you muted yourself. Try to unmute. Hold on, Jeremy. I think you muted yourself. See if you can unmute. All right, well, we'll see if he comes back in. If not, that should be pretty interesting. Let me pull up the dates real quick, Todd. Hold on just a second. Let's see here. All right, so let me see here. All right, let me go ahead and I'll pull up this graphic real quick. So this is not necessarily the final deal, but this is a graphic that I'm working on right now. This is the Open High School Fishing Open Classic Tournament. It's the first annual one, of course. First 200 teams will be accepted. It's going to be out of Red River South. $100 entry fee, $25 big bass. It'll be July the 14th through the 17th. And each team is guaranteed 2 days of fishing, and then they're going to have the cutoff and do the final day. And it'll be sponsored by Bayou Outdoor Power Sports, as well as, I'm quite sure, some other sponsors. Again, just in the beginning stages of putting this together. So thank you, Jeremy, for coming on board, coming on the show. And we'll get you back on and some other folks involved with it, you know, before tournament time as we get more information out and all that sort of thing, and we'll talk about it. So, okay, so some breaking news right there on the Outdoor News. Upcoming high school fishing tournament out of Red River South. You can, if you don't want to fish it or don't have some high schoolers to fish it, just go down there and watch the weigh-in. This is going to be set up really well. Jeremy does a great job with that, and so it'll be a fun deal even if you're not fishing, and even if you don't want to get on the Red River. All right, so we flip from women coming to Caddo to high schoolers going to the Red River. Again, flipping back just as a reminder on the Lady Bass Anglers Association coming on Caddo. That'll be coming up pretty soon. As a matter of fact, I want to roll another video. This was from 2019, and this will kind of give you an idea of what some of these ladies are about.
Alyssa Johnson was named Rookie of the Year in the Ladies Bass Anglers Association. She says despite all of her success, none of it would matter without the support and love from her family since she first started fishing in a small pond. Matt Thibodeau shares her story tonight in our special report.
Lighting up the waters in what some may call a male-dominated sport is Alyssa Johnson, Ladies Bass Anglers Association's Rookie of the Year. At what seemed like no time at all, Johnson went from fishing in local lakes to signing T-shirts at pro tournaments.
I didn't expect a whole lot of myself at first. I kind of had a lot of a little trial and error. It took a lot of family and a lot of support from the ladies that I fished with and against to kind of encourage me to stay and keep fishing.
Johnson didn't start her fishing days wearing a jersey. Instead, she was formally introduced to the waters and was baptized in East Texas tradition.
I've always grown up catfishing in ponds with my grandmother. That she had a stock catfish pond. She would chum them up with the little can and some dog food, and we would just go out there and have a blast.
Growing up near Lake Palestine, making time to go fishing was easy, but it was so much more than just having fun on the lake or putting food on the table.
The lake have always been my serenity, my peacefulness. I just find a calmness being on the water. You really can able just to take in God's creation and the nature. You see all kinds of things.
And all her current success out on the water didn't happen overnight, and she didn't achieve it alone. Since the first competition, always at her side is her best friend and mentor, Pam Ridgel.
We just had it. There was just one of those things when you meet somebody and it just happens.
I had to learn how to bass fish. I had to learn how to tournament fish, and she took her time to teach me.
And the pair didn't meet on a body of water or at a bait shop.
Alyssa and I met several years ago, probably about 20 years ago. We had kids that went to school together, played basketball together. They were all friends, and so we actually met through basketball games.
The lessons passed from friend to friend proved to be fruitful, and Johnson proved to be a quick study.
I know I taught her too well. She is definitely, she has gained a title that I have not received yet. She has learned a whole lot. She's an excellent angler. I know that if I miss one, she's going to get it.
Despite all the fierce competition out on the water, Johnson still finds time to be thankful and appreciate every blessing.
We are all working women that are in this circuit. We are mothers, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're wives. We take care of our home. Most of us have a full-time job, but I'm thankful for my family that I do leave because I know they're back home supporting me.
With a short and impressive resume, the sky is the limit, and she knows she can do better. The next tournament will be in Natchitoches, Louisiana in March. Until then, Johnson will be practicing and working on perfecting the skills she learned in the pond so many years ago. Matt Thibodeau, Fox 51 News.
And congratulations to her.
Okay, so now that I've dusted off the old archive news footage, that was Alyssa Johnson. She's the one that won the classic that the LBAA had back in 2019 on Caddo. Again, that's part of that weigh-in I used to show the paperfish deal and talk about that last week. So, hey, Alyssa, was that, whose old legend was that with no motor on it? Was that Yamamoto's, or whose old legend was that? I think she's fishing in a Falcon now, and I know she's proud of that. So anyway, we're excited to see all the ladies come back. Like I said, there were a couple of them, Penny McCurdy and Noella and some others that actually fished the 4D frog fishing deal. So anyway, glad to have the ladies coming back in. Okay, and visit us at Caddo. So, the last thing that I have, well, I guess not the last thing, almost the last thing that I have on my list. How many of y'all know about the Wobble Head? And some of you may raise your hand and know about different types of wobble heads. Let's just put it that way. So, how many of y'all know about the Wobble Head? Let me get, give me just a second here. Let me get my, Pat Gunderson says, I do. Yeah, Alyssa says, yeah, that's Gary Yamamoto's little private pond or lake out there at his ranch in Palestine. Let's see here. I had this pulled up and now I can't find it. Let's see, Bass Fishing Archives. Let me see if I can find this thing. Hold on here a second, because I had a good article. And we'll start off with this. So, let me pull up. All right, so a good friend of mine is a fellow named Jim Dillard out of West Monroe. Known Jim many, many years, since the 90s. And I guess about 10 or 15 years ago, Jim purchased Wobble Head lures. And let me try to make this bigger. But I pulled this up from their old cached website from like back in 2009. And it's an article that they used to have on their site by Dr. Bill Miller. I actually had the opportunity and the good privilege to fish with Dr. Bill Miller a couple of times. Once on Lake Bartholomew. And we had a whole lot of fun throwing wobble heads back then. And that was back in the 90s. Dr. Bill Miller is a super guy. Funny, quick story. He had an 80s model Ranger that was in immaculate condition. I mean, it looked like it came off the showroom floor. He took it like every other year back to flipping up to Ranger and had them buff, polish. He had the carpet redone every couple of years. I mean, this boat, he fished out of it a lot, and I'm not kidding you. You could have stuck it on a showroom floor. Anyway, we're backing down the ramp one day. I was with John Brown Jr., who started the outdoor news with me back in the 90s out of Monroe. Long story. Anyway, so we're fishing with Dr. Bill Miller. We're backing down the ramp, and Dr. Miller had unhooked the bow strap from the front of his boat. And the ramp was pretty steep and kind of crooked and all that. And John was backing him down. I was standing there just, kind of watch and do whatever. And all of a sudden, the boat just started sliding off the trailer. And I yelled at John. John gassed it in reverse and got the back end of the boat over the water just in the nick of the time. Boat slides off the trailer and shoots across the other side of the bayou. So there we were, no boat. Boat's on the other side of the bayou. I walked up the bank a little bit, found a little aluminum boat, little John boat, no paddle, found a little piece of 2x4, paddled my way over there, got Dr. Miller's boat back, and we got loaded up, got the camera gear and all that in there, and proceeded to catch the fool out of fish on a wobble head. So anyway, but this is a little bit of the history of the wobble head, and the wobble head as we know it. Let me go ahead and pull up their page. As we know it around here. Let's see. Not that wobble head. Hold on. Lures.com. Let's try that. There we go. Looks like this. It's that piece of metal that's curved. It's got a split ring on the front, and then the hook is on there. And generally, I fish it with a cream worm. no, I'm not sponsored by Wobble Head in any shape, form, or fashion. I just go buy them from Bayou Outdoors or wherever I can find them and fish with the darn things. You can, I think, order them off of Jim's page. But the reason that I mention that is this time of the year, starting now through June, July, and August, Wobble Heads can be good. But make sure you get the Pro Series, because Jim has put better hooks when he came out with that Pro Series a couple of years ago, and they tend to stick fish much better. So again, a little bit of a shout out to Jim Dillard and Wobble Head. I do have, let me see if I can find that. Let's see here. Let me flip this back over. Wobble Head with a rage crawl. That sounds interesting. Let me get back over here. Hold on a second. Did I? Yeah, I've got my video for that. So give me just a second. Let's see. Let me get this set up here. So I released this last year too, and so some of you may have seen it. We're not going to go through the whole thing.
Here, Mr. Jim Dillard.
But this is on Caddo.
First if y'all are wondering what a wobble head is, let me show you. This right here. It's basically a
Oh yeah, Austin.
bent metal spoon, so to speak.
I've caught a lot of fish on a Wobble Head.
Cream worm on the back of it.
Not with the rage crawl though. Like I said, I've always thrown it with the cream worm, and I generally throw that one color. That's kind of like their earthworm color or whatever.
Fish, and not a bad fish for the first wobble head fish of the year.
Let's see. I think this is a pretty good one here too. And so again, I've got this on my Facebook page and on the YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, this one's at 10,000 views, something like that. I can't remember. And interestingly, this video was shot May the 29th. So it wasn't the dead heat of the summer. I mean, it was warm that day, but
Fish number 2 on the wobble head. Good gracious.
yeah, they were stacked in there. So anyway, if you got a few minutes and want to go check that video out, the reason that I show that again is because the wobble head can be very productive starting this time of the year. And because we didn't have much winter this year, I would argue that our time frame and all that has shifted. So it was, like I said, the end of May last year when I shot that video, but it's getting time again for that. Let's see. Dan says, remember fishing that back in the 70s at Toledo Bend, flooded timber. Yep, hook was riveted on, had tendency to come off, used to solder it on. Then you know the deal, Dan. Now, let me just say that with the new hooks that Jim has got on there, they're way more secure. And so as long as you get the Wobble Head Pros, and again, Bayou Outdoors has got them. They might be about the only place around local. I don't know. Mike Bacon may have them out there. I'm not really sure. You can order them from Jim. But anyway, they can be the deal too, and they're much better than they were back in the day, Dan, as you remember. Yeah, Dan says the metal was, whoops, let's see, hold on. Says the metal was brass back then. No idea who made it. Well, it was actually, let me see, hold on just a second. I had this pulled up. Let me see if I can find it again. Let's see. There was actually originally the El Tango, and then there was one called I think it was the Flutter Worm, and they were the precursors to the actual Wobble Head. The El Tango was made by a couple of guys out of Baton Rouge, and then it over time evolved into the Wobble Head. Yeah, Jeremy says Jim gave him some Wobble Heads at the Classic 2 years ago. I love them. Yeah, and you know, I've got specific times of the year and water conditions when I use them, but they can definitely be very productive. And I like to slow roll them, much like you slow roll a spinnerbait. But anyway, so just a couple of tips for you on the show tonight. And I think that's pretty much going to conclude. We're right at about an hour, and I'm trying to keep the shows around an hour. Let me also mention, the junior, I think I did at the beginning of the show, but the junior fishing league, which is the kids, you know, right before they get in high school, middle schoolers, they will be at Toledo Bend. At weigh-in's going to be at Oak Ridge next Saturday. If you're down around Toledo Bend and, you know, through fishing or whatever, maybe swing by and watch these kids weigh in. I will be videoing it. Depending on the connection, I'll do it live. If not, I'll pre-record and we'll release it. And have the video out there, and would encourage you to look up North Louisiana Junior Fishing League and like and follow that. Those kids really, really enjoy it, and like I said, it gets them ready for the high school league side. Let me pull up their page real quick, and we'll start wrapping the show up here. Let me do a little, having to host the show, produce the show, and all that can be a little fun at sometimes. But anyway, this is the North Louisiana Junior Fishing League's page on Facebook, and we got their website going too. We got a YouTube channel, but we got to get the videos posted up there. But anyway, we'll be doing a Facebook Live with Shane Nugent and maybe another guest or two coming up Thursday evening on their page. Of course, I'll share it out on the Outdoor News as well. So, again, encourage you to go like and follow their page and keep up with those junior kids. It's great to see them out there fishing. All right, folks. We are at an hour, and that's kind of what I've allotted for the Outdoor News. Hope that you got a little bit of interesting information tonight. Got a guest quasi lined up for next week. If not, we may get Mr. Future Bossier Mayor Jeremy Gallman on to talk about some upcoming things with the high schoolers and his Classic Open coming up in July. We'll talk some more about that. Anyway, and we might see if we can get some of the lady bass anglers on. Maybe we can get Alyssa to come on, or Penny, or Pam, or some of those gals, or Cheryl, some of those gals, and get them to come on and talk about the Lady Bass Anglers Tournament on Caddo coming up. All right, folks, with all that said, I appreciate you watching, and I will be back next Monday evening, same time, right about 7 o'clock. If you hadn't already, of course, like and follow the Facebook page. Go over to YouTube. I need to get my YouTube subscribers up. So if you have a YouTube or Gmail or Google account, whatever, go over to YouTube. Just search for the Outdoor News. You'll find it, same logo. And like and subscribe over on YouTube and sign up for notifications. And we will see y'all next Monday. Thank you, Mr. Gallman. Thank you, Mr. Gunderson. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Alyssa, Dan, Austin. Who else am I leaving out? Anyway, everybody that was watching, I'll see you next week.